Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Sharon Bonney. I'm the Executive Director for the Coalition on Adult Basic Education, and I'm pleased to welcome you to our webinar today, Technology Toolbox for the Adult Education Instructor. I'd like to first say that we have a little over 870 folks registered today. We have 500 seats, so we're delighted that you'll be able to join us. But for those that are unable to join us in person on this webinar, it will be archived. We will be sending it out by link tomorrow, so everybody will be able to access this one way or the other. Now, everybody who attends this webinar will receive a certificate of attendance that will also have CEU verification, and that will come out tomorrow by 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. All of the materials we'll review today will also be on our Adult Educators repository, so great news there. All of the webinar materials and information from previous webinars is on our Adult Educators repository. As I just mentioned, there's also a lot of other great resources available there to all members as well. We have our virtual conference coming up. That virtual conference has over 10,000 registrants. We're really excited about this. It's due to a partnership with over 25 states. And if your state is not currently registered for this 2-day professional development experience, you can go online, register for $25 per day. So I just wanted to mention that. This is done in partnership with over 20 Strand partners. We also have our national conference coming up. It's March 25th through the 28th, and that will be in Phoenix, Arizona. We anticipate an excellent turnout for that. We're really excited. Last year, we had over 375 concurrent sessions on a number of different topics. So we have about 30 different strand partners, meaning 30 different types of strands and different sessions offerings. As many of you know, we've had an Educate and Elevate public awareness campaign, Investment in America's Future. I mention this because we have been able to connect to we've been able to have over 30,000 connections with legislators since February 1st, 2015. It's really easy to connect with your legislators and send a quick and easy email to them to let them know that adult education is important. So I'd encourage everybody here to take a few minutes, go to this website that's listed, and let your funders and your legislators know that adult education is important. So this webinar is part of a series. It's called Research to Practice. And then what we do in this series is that we pair a webinar with resources in our Adult Educators repository with our journal. Our journal is celebrating over 40 years in publishment. And you can see here that there's a technology journal, or I'm sorry, an article in our journal on technology. And then also we have this webinar on technology. So I just want to mention that because there's also resources in our Adult Educators repository. And of course, our theme for this month is technology. At this point, I'd like to stop and take a moment to introduce Robert Breitbart of Burlington English. Because of their sponsorship, we're able to provide these webinars, and we're able to provide them free of charge to members. So Robert, I'd like to turn this over to you.
Well, thank you so much to Sharon and everyone out there, and to all the good folks at COABE. Educate and Elevate is truly what we're seeing from all the adult educators out there, and from everyone, particularly the board at COABE. So thank you so much. In more than 25 years as a adult ESL GED instructor myself, and director now of educational partnerships with Burlington English. I'm so proud to work with Burlington English. My experience has been is that most of the time we don't get things done because we're underwhelmed, but we don't get things done because we're overwhelmed, rather. And so at Burlington English, we've really put together an amazing program that allows everyone to hit all of the common measures that WEO asks us to do. And a lot of the things that folks don't know about Burlington is that we're a multi-level online program that hit, again, all the things that you would want. But instead of running around to 4 or 5 books and 5 to 10 websites, everything's in one place. So whether that's in-class projectable lessons that make the teachers' lives super easy, lessons in a flash, worksheets on demand, distance learning elements that are just phenomenal, mobile friendly. Burlington offers everything in one place. It really can take so many roles with programs and make educators' lives so much easier. So I would love to connect with all of you out there in the great world of adult education. So feel free, give us a connection at www.burlingtonenglish.com/contact or the information on the screen. Well, without further ado, I'd like to turn it back over to the busiest woman I know in adult education. That would be Sharon Bonney.
Thank you so much, Robert. I appreciate that introduction. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our webinar presenter, who is Rebecca DeJesus. And she has over 9 years of experience in adult education as a GED instructor. And we're going to learn from her today some really great tools that we'll be able to put in our toolbox for when we're working with students. So you'll be able to see her bio on our website, as well as in the PowerPoint we'll be sending out tomorrow. So without further ado, Rebecca, go ahead. Rebecca, we can't hear you. Nope.
And I'd like to tell everybody out there, it is incredibly worth it. Rebecca is phenomenal. Just got a chance to see her at the Florida Adult Community Educators Conference. She's a super rock star here near in Southwest Florida, and the pride of Orange County, doing some great work there. So.
Rebecca, we were just, we could hear you in the beginning, but I can't hear you now.
Sometimes with this Zoom program, you have to hover your mouse. I notice even I get paid per syllable with Burlington, and I mute myself there accidentally down at the bottom left-hand corner.
How about now?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you. Great.
It's always great to start a technology conversation with problems with technology, so I'm just going to use that to branch off. I want to welcome everybody here on Friday afternoon. I'm pretty proud that we've got this many participants on a Friday afternoon, and Friday the 13th to boot. If you would like to introduce yourself before I start rolling, I'm interested to see where you're from. If you want to click that chat button and post where you're from, what do you do, and you know, city and state, what do you teach if you're a teacher. If you'd like to use that feature, maybe we'll just spend 30 seconds seeing. Okay, we got New Hampshire in the house, looks like. This is looking good so far. And now I have to practice reading really quickly, seeing all these. Wow, okay, I'm glad to see so many states represented. Arizona, California, this is awesome. Okay, I'm going to let that run, and I'm going to keep my eyes on it to see you. I think we've got a lot of different cities and states represented, so I want to welcome you. I'm going to throw up my contact information here if you want to take a minute to write down my email address. I absolutely love to talk to other educators about the technology resources that you're using in your classroom, or if you're a coordinator or an administrator and you found something that you absolutely love. I'd love to hear about that too, so I love to communicate with other people, and I'm on email all day, every day. I love technology. I'm a super tech junkie, and I have a lot of respect for people that love technology, but people that also don't love technology. And I don't think that's the only way to get to our students, and I don't think it's the only way to reach our students. But my perspective on technology as an instructor is that I don't really have a ton of planning time. So the websites that I am going to show today are really going to be primarily websites that you can use really quickly, and hopefully that you can integrate these into your classroom if you're a classroom teacher within minutes. I would like to show you things that you can use as early as tomorrow, and hopefully I can inspire you to use one of these things today. So again, here you have my contact information, you have my email here, and I'm gonna just turn off my video so that we can kind of get into the content, and I'm gonna start walking you through a bunch of the different resources that I have to offer you today. So I'm going to, should be a handout posted already, and you'll see that this is the handout that I'm working with here. And that handout on the left-hand side, you'll see it says 1 minute, 5 minutes, 15 minutes in some cases. And this is an indicator of the amount of time that it takes to start using these resources. So I'm hoping that you'll see some of these 1 minute and 5 minute resources and think that you can start using them immediately in your classroom. And I'm going to talk about how I use them. I'm predominantly an ABE GED math teacher, but I have a ton of different resources on here, so I'm just going to start getting into them so that I can respect the time limit that we have today. And so I'm going to roll through some of these first ones. If you are GED, or if you're CTE and you're talking to one of those ESOL students or immigrants or somebody that you know that needs to start thinking about maybe getting a GED, it's easier for them to get a GED in the country, or even a high school equivalency because they already have it in a different country. I love these online free practice tests, and you'll see those two at the top of that handout. It's just a great way to throw up practice test questions, or if you're a coordinator and you're talking to a student who thinks they're ready to take a test, then this is a great way to prove to them, okay, you're ready, or okay, maybe you're not ready yet. So I really love these resources. I also like this particular website, the GEDtestingservice.com/free practice test, because it looks exactly like the GED test. And for those of you that are in a state that's using a GED, then you will love this resource. I'm going to move right along for these though. To the next one, which is Google Voice. And I'm always surprised to find out that not everybody knows about Google Voice yet, but this is the online version of Google Voice, where I am able to, through a Gmail account or a regular Google account, which most of us have, and if we don't already have them, we can create them for free. I was able to create this account where I can text my students, and what happens is you get a free phone number that works in every way that a phone number works. You can use it to make calls, you can call with it, people can call you. But what I really like about this resource is that students can text you, and this is just an example. You can see all my text messages here. And this is a website. I can also hook it up to my smartphone as an app, and it works just like any other text messaging app that you're already using. It also works just like your regular text messages on your phone, where you can interact with students. But the really great thing is that you can give them a phone number that has absolutely nothing to do with your personal life. And I find that it's a nice barrier there between you and the students, and like your personal life and the students, but you have a capability to just text them from your phone if you download the app, or this is me sending graduation pictures to a student, or you can text them straight from your desktop at work. So you'll find that, you know, you have students that will not answer your phone call, but then they'll end up texting you back 1 minute later, so clearly they just didn't want to answer your phone call. Again, that's a free phone number that you can get through Google Voice. And you can see here on the left-hand side, the features of this are so simple. You can text, you can call, and you can also get transcribed voicemails. If you don't answer because your student wants to call you at 10:30 at night, then it'll transcribe voicemails or leave a voicemail there that you can listen to through the app. And it's such a convenient way to communicate with students, especially when you've got those young students that do not want to answer phone calls because this generation doesn't, maybe that. Okay, next is Evernote, and this is my #1 favorite resource of all time for my classroom. And what this does is it really enables me to have those teachable moments, and it is the best way to get information out to students, in my opinion. So I have logged in, and this login is like creating an email. That's how fast and easy it is. And what happens with Evernote is you can see I have just a couple notes sitting here. This was a GED info note, and then this was an assignment that I wanted students to work on. And what I do is I created a completely professional account that has absolutely nothing to do with my personal life. And what I do is I give my students my username and password. So I tell them to log into my account. And that enables me to teach them exactly one thing, which is just Evernote. And this is the only thing that they end up having to learn. And then I can teach them, go into Evernote to access whatever I want. So I'm going to just minimize this quickly to show you how easy this is. I'm going to have to close all this stuff down so I can just show you. I have a document sitting here. Okay, this is just a PDF and it's a worksheet. And I want to give this out to all of my students. And so I'm just going to create a new note. And sometimes I'll label it by the class period, because I want to do different things with different classes. And you just click and drag that. And so what I can do now is say, okay, guys, all right, I taught you this lesson. I want you to have more practice. So just go into Evernote and you're going to see that note. And when they log in, they're going to see this list of notes, and it's not very many. And then they can click on that note, and then they can open up that worksheet right there. So it makes it so convenient to pass any type of information, because you can do PDFs, you can do Microsoft Word files or any kind of Microsoft files. You can do photos, you can do web links. Instead of trying to get a student to click on a specific link, you can just post the link in Evernote, which makes it much more convenient. And what I really like about this is that tomorrow, when I'm done with this worksheet or this resource or whatever I had them doing, I can just delete it. And then it'll be gone. And so my students won't have too many notes here to sort through, because I do it on almost a daily basis. It also enables me to have those teachable moments when suddenly in an adult education classroom, you were expecting 10 students to show up, but it's 7 different students because we have such a fluctuating attendance. When you have those teachable moments, or you had something that you were planning to do, but then you end up getting a different group than who you thought was going to show up that day, it enables you to just start teaching something and then disperse the work or the worksheet or the resource in this manner, rather than having to go make copies, or if you didn't have enough copies. Or in adult education, we know our attendance it fluctuates so much that sometimes you have a lot of extra copies, and it really takes down that and is a really easy way to create a green classroom. Another way I use this is sometimes when I'm out, I'll leave a note in here for my students telling them exactly what I want them to do while I'm gone, rather than trying to get a substitute to communicate that to them. And I found that even with the most basic computer users that aren't especially comfortable with computers, that don't really even know how to turn on a computer, I only have to teach them this one thing. And then as soon as they know how to go into a note and click on whatever I've left in there for them, that's all they need to know. So this is a little bit better, I find, than Google Drive or Dropbox or any of the other cloud services, because you can just give them your username and password and teach them this exact one thing, and they don't need an account to use this. So I love Evernote, and I can't recommend it enough. Okay, moving right along, and I'm going to get a little mathy here, but I promise for you RLA, ELA people, I will swoop back into the reading and language stuff. IExcel is a wonderful resource where we have a ton of different math practice, and IExcel being so great, they have started to develop a language section. So if I go into the learning section here, you'll see all these different kinds of math practice questions, and well, that jumped out for me. And you'll see that there's also a language arts section here. Now for adult education, you may not find too much science and social studies, because it really is going to be more of a K-12 science, for example, memorizing the parts of a cell instead of reading about a cell and answering questions. So it's a little bit different than the adult ed setting. But the math and language arts are great, and I'll just show you a quick example. We've got it organized by grade level here. And I'm going to just pick something, 8th grade factors. If I wanted to, let me pick something that's harder to throw up. If I wanted to have a bunch of practice problems to show with students on the board, I can just throw these up. And as a math teacher, I find even though I love technology, I don't have time to create all my own graphs and things like that in PowerPoints. That would take a tremendous amount of time for me. And in this system, students are able to, you're able to just project this up on the board. You have some of those new style testing type of answering abilities, for example, like a hotspot type of thing is what this question is. And so it does sort of simulate the tests that our adults are going to be encountering in their future. And what I also like about this is just it's unlimited practice problems. So especially for you mathy people, you'll know that you can't always just make something up off the top of your head and have it come out to a whole number answer. And so this is a great resource with just tons of practice problems. And when you submit it, it'll tell you immediately if you're right or wrong. So if I get it wrong as a student user, I immediately get an explanation of the correct answer. So I love that too. So IExcel is like many of the other resources I'm going to show. It is something that you can pay for. I just want to focus on the fact that I don't pay for anything. Every resource that I'm showing you is free. So the way that I use these are totally free. IExcel, for example, you're allowed to do 9 free questions per day. And then it will tell you that you can't do any more, your daily limit on that computer. So then you just clear your internet browser history and you can do 9 more. So that's just a little tip about IExcel. I do use this for free, and I do have students using this independently too. So if I decided that graphing a line from an equation in slope-intercept form, which you can see the title here, this is a random thing that I clicked on. If I decided that I wanted them to work on this specific thing, what I would do is I would just copy and paste this link into my Evernote notes, and then that would be the fastest way for me to get it, rather than trying to get them to type this URL into any internet browser. So that's just another way that I use Evernote, like, hey, there's a link, go there, click on the link. It's really easy because there's so much stuff in IExcel. I do not think that if you are a high school equivalency teacher or an ABE teacher or even an ESOL teacher with regard to the language section, which is really developing, I don't think that you will really ever run out of things in here, and I don't think that you'll find anything that IExcel doesn't have to offer you in terms of math if you are ABE or GED math or high school equivalency math. Okay, next is also Mathy. This is only Mathy, and it's CUDA software. This is as easy as it can be. They have this free worksheet section. This is something that I know that almost every math teacher already knows about and loves, but I just want to mention it for any newbies out there. And all it is just a group of questioning, a group of different worksheets that are already organized beautifully. You click on it and you have a beautiful 2-page worksheet in most cases that you can just print immediately. And the second 2 pages are going to be the answer key. I find this to be very convenient for GED. And what I really like about CUDA is that most of their worksheets are going to include positive and negative integers. So we know that those are going to be the questions that students are going to miss the most on our GED and high school equivalency kinds of tests. So I love this website. And again, that's cudasoftware.com. Check that out if you're mathy. Now, if you're an ABE math teacher, then I'm going to also recommend Common Core sheets, where you're going to have a little bit lower level stuff, like even 1-digit addition problems. And I'm just going to show you an example of something. You have all these worksheets for free. It's a totally free resource, and you can just select them. You can download them. You can create your own worksheets. But what I really like is I like this 1 at a time feature, because again, as a math teacher, you don't always want to make things up, because you may not make up the right kind of math for that group that you're currently teaching. And so this 1 at a time feature is just another way that we can quickly throw work up on the board and examples, so you can do that gradual release and those practice problems with your students before you give them individual work. And So I love this feature of this one at a time feature on the Common Core sheets. Okay, so now I'm going to try something, and I'm a little nervous to try it in this setting, but I hope that we can do this pretty well. I'm going to show poll everywhere. And when I log in, this is all I see. So this is a really great way to get some like quick feedback from students. And I'm going to try it in this setting, and I really hope that it works. When I log in, this is what I see. And you can type very specific questions here, but you can see I only do one kind of poll, and that's answer my question. So I'm going to show you how fast I use this. Creating a poll takes about a minute. So this is something you can use in your classroom in the next 3 minutes if you just create a poll. So this is how I use it. I just use one of my past polls that says answer my question. I'm going to activate the poll, and then I'm going to ask those of you that are listening to participate with me now. And I hope that this works in this setting with so many people. So I'm going to activate, and only those of you that are the first 40 to respond are going to get in. So I will forewarn you about that, because this is the free version and I don't pay for anything, but I never have more. I don't have this many students. I don't have 500 students at one time, so I'm not worried about that. So I'm going to activate this poll. Now, answer my question. My question is, what is your name? Okay, what is your name? And this is how you're going to respond. Here is my phone number. You're going to text my phone number is 37607. So that is what you're going to put in the phone number box, 37607. And then you're going to have to type my special code to get into my class. So it's not my full name. It's Rebecca, DEJES 534. And as soon as you type that, as soon as you text that code to my phone number, which is 37607, you are going to get an immediate response that says, hey, you're in, and now you can answer my question, which is, what is your name? So I'm going to give you 20 seconds to start doing this. All right, thank you, Heather. Thank you. Okay, so we have different styles that these things will show up in. So I'm going to change the style, and I'm going to do like a text wall type of look. So you'll see that I can have it displayed in a different setting. And I'm going to make this full screen. So if I was in the middle of a class, I could ask my students any question. It could be a language arts question. It could be a writing question. It could be, hey, give me an example of a verb. It could be anything that you can think. And the reason that I say answer my question instead of typing out the question is because it's way faster for me to just keep changing the question. So I'm going to change the style again just to show you. I'm going to do a word cloud style now, and you'll see how these answers pop up. Now, the free version, again, is limited to 40 responses, but I don't know if you would typically be teaching more than 40 students at one time anyway. So you got that. So you can see how this is just really quick type of get your students to answer. And you find that when you've got those 16 and 17-year-olds, they can't put their phone down. They are so fast with this. And if you have any trouble with older students that don't like to text like this, then you can just pair them up with the younger ones and let the younger ones do the finger work on the cell phone. And then meanwhile, here you go, you're collecting responses, which you can either choose to show, project on the board in full screen or not. I can also clear those results out in case something inappropriate pops up on the screen and you didn't like it. And then there's a couple other features that you can use here, but you can see there's not too many choices in this system anyway. And again, that is Poll Daddy, or I'm sorry, that's Poll Everywhere. And here when you click on polls, you just click create and you answer about, okay, you make a couple choices about what kind of poll you want in, that's it. You click create and you're done. So it's a very fast and easy way, and I find that students like to see those responses popping up on the board. Okay, so you're moving right along here. The next one is strictly math. I'm not going to go through this too long, but it's online manipulative. So here's an example of some algebra tiles we have here. So if you've got manipulatives in your classroom, I bet you can find the same kind of manipulative here. Like here's an example of a geo board, and you've got these rubber bands that you can use. If you're mathy especially, probably if you are using a manipulative in your classroom, you have the same thing here that you can project up on your screen. And you also have a print feature here. So if you decided to create like a picture of manipulatives here, or you wanted, for example, like tangrams are in here or something, if you wanted that to happen, then you could create a picture here or create shapes here and then get your students to cut them out. I like the fractions in here because I think that if you created those and then had students cut them out, they can basically make their own fraction blocks, and they're stackable and they're to scale. So it's great manipulatives to get students to, get that tactile sense involved, and it's great for you to be able to project it up on the screen. There's some kiddie things in here because, again, this is Glencoe. This is primarily a K-12 manufacturer or publisher. But there's some things that I find, like I find this one is very, very kiddie, this bears in a boat thing, but I find that adults don't always care that it's kiddie because it's a little different, something colorful, and then I can just throw this up there and say, okay, what if these 3 bears are in the boat, what's the probability that a purple one falls out? Okay, all right, so now we say, okay, it's about 66% that a purple one falls out. Okay, now what's the probability that a purple one falls out? So it's just a way of manipulating things on the screen in front of students, and I find that they are attracted to moving colorful things when you're presenting in front of them anyway, so I just wanted to make mention of that. All right, moving right along, Sporkle, I'm trying to really respect our time here, so I'm speaking as quickly as I can. This is a complete brain break website. There is plenty of stuff in here that does not apply to anything academic. I'm going to show you the example of the categories. The category, for example, is television, and that's not necessarily what I want my students to find, but I do like this sometimes, especially for the geography section. And you'll find a lot of different things in here. You'll find, for example, like adjectives and verbs and things like that. And I'm just going to type in 50 U.S. states because I like this one. And what I really like about this is this is a total brain break. If you got a student that's just completely off task and they aren't, they're just not going to get engaged in what you want them to do, then I'm going to change this. I typed it wrong. They're not engaged in what you want them to do, then this is a way to kind of get them re-engaged in something. So what they are is just little quizzes. You can create them. I don't typically do that. I just use the ones that are already there. And all it does is it times you, and you have to answer questions. And what I like about this is that I've used it personally just for entertainment, but things like the 50 states is something that we might take for granted, but for you social studies teachers and you RLA teachers, and even you ESOL teachers may find this relevant. It's helpful to be able to have an understanding of the geography of the U.S. on the GEDN high school equivalency test, because if the question is about in what region of the U.S. did the Louisiana Purchase take place, it's helpful if you kind of know where Louisiana is, or at least have an idea of it. Certainly the big states, California's west, Florida's east, things like that. And so I like this. You'll also find countries of the world in here. And there's a lot of stuff that you can find on this website. Again, it's not a real academic website, but it is a brain break type of website. And I just like it kind of when they're out of control and you just can't get them re-engaged. They're tired. It's Friday afternoon and they just, they're just not engaging in what they should be engaging. So at least you can kind of turn them back towards academics in one way or another. Okay. That was the majority of my math stuff, so I'm going to move on for you RLA people. Newsela, if you don't know about it, is a super awesome text-based website, informational text-based website, and what it is current events and articles. And you can create a login, and this is one of my coworkers. She has recently logged in on my computer. And what you can do is create a free account and click on any of these articles. There's tons of archives. You will almost never find a topic that you can't find an article related. And what you can do is you have an article here. You can project it on the board, or you can print it beautifully for your students. Here you have a print feature. It's very easy. And you'll notice here that you can change the Lexile level. So there's plenty of charts online that relate Lexile levels to grade levels for those of us that are used to TABE scores instead of Lexile levels, or CASA scores instead of Lexile levels. But we can make it as hard as it can be, or we can make it as easy as it can be, and then we can print it at those different levels. So it's a very easy way to be able to pass out the same article, print the same article for multiple different students at different levels. And also there are activities here where they have little quizzes, and typically they're 4 or 5 questions. And the student can interact with this online. You can create accounts online, but what I usually just do is I just print the article with the quiz, and you have that in the print option. You can print the article only, the article and the quiz, or the article and the quiz and answers. I know that I have a lot of ESOL teachers that I work with that absolutely love this website because it's a great way to bring current events into an ESOL classroom. It's a great way to bring global events into an ESOL classroom, which is of course relevant to many of our immigrant students. And you have these pre-made questions that correspond to the reading. So I can't begin to talk about how easy it is to just find something you like, print it, and go. And you'll find that very frequently you will have very trendy current events that are going to be here on the front page. But you also have a library, and you can see here arts and culture, science and math, religion and philosophy, government and economics. You have tons of different topics here where you can pull from their archive. So it's a great website. It's Newsela. It couldn't be easier to use. It's so fast to find things on here to use in your classroom immediately as soon as you print. All right, next one. I know that most people are familiar with TED Talks by now, and you can find millions of TED Talks on TED.com, and you can find a ton of TED Talks on YouTube, which is the platform that they use to share their stuff out. But I just want to highlight ed.ted.com because it's very much like TED Talks. What they do is they take specific TED Talks and they turn them into lessons. So I'm just going to click on one of these just to show you. Okay. Explore cave paintings in this 360-degree animated cave. So we're talking about cave paintings here. And what you can do is you can watch the video just like you would with a normal TED Talk. But then what I like about this is that they have this think section where they have these questions that are already created that correspond to that video. And typically I've seen anywhere from 6 to 12 questions. This one has 8, looks like. And so it's a great way to have those pre-made questions that already correspond to that video, those critical thinking type questions. And you know, as a teacher, I couldn't imagine anything being easier than having a website where you just go find a video and then boom, there's questions. And then you also have a dig deeper section here where you can then have more reading about that video topic. And very frequently you'll see clickable links in that article, that additional text that you have here. So you have that reading component that's already linked. You have those clickable links where it's even more information, so you can turn this into a research activity. And then there's also this discussion page where they have a discussion question, which you can then turn into a conversation piece if it's an ESOL class, or a writing piece if you're a language or reading or ELA teacher. And you can also see that this one has one response. Very frequently you'll see a couple responses in there, so the students can view that discussion and they can respond to other people who have already responded to this. So I really do like this, and if you love TED Talks, then I would think that you would love ed.ted.com. So I just want to highlight that. Okay, next one is Reid Theory, and I'm going to show it to you from 2 perspectives. For those of you that are familiar with Khan Academy, which I'm not going to be showing today, Khan Academy is the math and sciencey person, so of course Khan has really developed math, and his phrasing is free for everyone forever or something like that. So Reid Theory is another one where they're like free reading practice for everyone everywhere. So basically this website is free. They are saying that it's free, and they intend to keep it free. And this is the student side of it. So I want to just make a quick mention that I had used this example with another group recently that I was presenting for. And I had answered these questions very quickly in my test student account. And then when I logged back in today, it was still sitting there waiting for me to answer the last question. So I actually thought that was really cool for an ABE GED setting, because I didn't realize before that it would take you right back to where you left off, which is great for our students because they have continuity. So this is a website where the students can create a free account and link to you as a teacher, or you can create a student account. And I'm going to talk about that in just a minute because it couldn't be easier. All students do in this program is they answer an 8-question free test. 8 questions. And I really love this program for that because most students can handle 8 questions. Some of those 50 and 60 question pre-tests that we're seeing in certain areas are a little overwhelming for some of my ABE students, I find. So I really like this because it's very short and concise, and students have time to get through it in the course of a typical class period. And then, based on those 8 questions, the reidtheory.org is going to assign them a level. So they will be working then on reading passages and informational texts that are written on their level based upon those 8 questions. And that level will be adjusted over time as they continue to answer questions. So if they keep bombing the quizzes and not answering questions accurately, the program will automatically reduce the level down and make the passages easier, and you'll see the passages get shorter with less vocabulary words or easier vocabulary words. And then for the higher levels, of course, the passages will get longer and have more difficult vocabulary and things like that. So I'm going to just show that I had already answered these questions. All a student needs to do is, I'm going to just put something in this box to show you how it looks when you finish a quiz. All a student needs to do is to read and answer the questions, and then they will basically get some feedback. In this case, I had just submitted a written response. I'm going to talk about that on the teacher side, and then they can go on to the next. And this actually looks like we're doing good here. I think it's logged me out. We might have to log back into this one. So anyway, this is the student side. They just answer questions, and it gives them immediate feedback telling them if they're right or wrong. I'm going to log out and log back into this to try to show you this. It immediately tells them if they're wrong, so they'll be able to have that feedback piece. All right, so I need this to I think I might have frozen this a little bit. Sorry, just give me 1 second to get this fixed because I do want to show this to you. Okay, it's working now, so we got finish and score here. And it's going to say I earned some knowledge points, so it's got that kind of celebrating success feedback, that goal to be, you can see the 38 knowledge points up here in the corner, to be constantly earning knowledge points. It gives me a feedback about my score, and then I can go on to the next quiz. And that's basically the whole student experience. So you can see that this passage is a lot shorter than the last one. It's probably because I got some wrong. So I'm just gonna try to guess wrong here. And it's immediately going to give me that feedback and tell me, no, you were wrong. It was this question. This was the correct answer, and here's why it was the correct answer. So it's got that great feedback for students. And again, this is a short passage with five questions, so it's not too much for students to take in. Okay, I'm going to switch to the teacher side now, just to show you how easy that side is. And I want to show you how I like to use this for students. What I like about this is when you have students in here, you don't have too many choices up here at the top, you'll see. I can see all my students here, which I have only one test student in this account. I have my classes here, so you can create multiple different classes. I've only created one class. And then I have these progress reports that are going to show me how my students are doing. So you'll see multiple students here displayed here. I only have one student. You'll see the different quizzes that they've taken, how they've done, and then you'll see you can track their progress over time. So you see here that it's showing me that this student originally started at about a 7th grade level, and since then the student has regressed. So it kind of gives you that indication that there's an issue there. Maybe they guessed right on the pretest, or they haven't been taking it seriously, or they need some kind of intervention because they're really struggling in reading. So you have those those that feedback there in these reports. And I really like that you're getting this for free. It's similar to Khan, but this is the reading side of the house, and Khan is the math side of the house. So to have a free website that's giving teachers feedback like this is awesome. So I'm also going to show you this written responses section. You'll see here that I can grade my students' written responses, and I can tell how they're doing and how they're able to answer questions. And of course, if you're teaching for the high school equivalency writing, a writing test or a GED writing test, you know, you're going to want a little bit more from your students in some of these written responses. You're going to want to see paragraph development. And here you can see their written responses. You can see what they wrote, and you can see how well they've done. Have they even put anything in that box? And does it make sense? And does it actually answer the question? And then you can provide them with a grade, and then you can provide them with feedback. So you're able to interact with your students through this. And I really liked this past summer, because I had a student who was hard of hearing, almost deaf, and really wasn't very willing to talk about being deaf or admit that that was an issue for him. And he didn't communicate very much because he had issues speaking because of the partial deafness or almost complete deafness. And what I liked about this is that it gave him a way to write to me, and it gave me a way to write back to him. And through that, I kind of figured out that he was really struggling in reading, but he wasn't able to articulate that using words because he wasn't so comfortable speaking. So I like that. You can also turn this feature off, because sometimes if you have students that are very energetic and very hard workers, you'll end up getting 50 written responses a day, and you may not have time to give your students feedback on all 50 of those. So you may want to disable that if you don't have time to interact with them and grade them. It's great if students practice even if you don't grade them, but of course this is a great feedback feature that you can use, so you wouldn't want to not be giving your students that feedback. And again, this is very easy to use. I'm going to click on my students here and just click on create new student accounts, just to show you all you need is a first name, last name. It will automatically make a username, or for me, for ease, I change it once it makes it to their student number, since on our campus the students are already used to that. And try to type a fake name in here just to show you. It'll automatically populate a username, and then I do the same password for every student, and you do not need to do an email. And once you click save, that's it. You're already done, and you've got your student in and ready to go. So I really like how easy it is to put students in here, and students can also enroll themselves into this independently of you, so that's another way. All right, next thing is academics, and it looks like I'm doing pretty good on time here. So I gotta tell you, when I first looked at this, I thought this is so childish, and my adults are really not gonna go for this. But this thing took off like a wildfire. So I really ended up enjoying this website. I wasn't too sure. You can see that it's a very kiddie thing, and it's not an adult thing. But, I find that sometimes for brain breaks and just for, those 15-minute periods where your students are fading in front of your eyes and they're just melting because they're tired, I find that things like this are really not too bad even for adults. And I find that adults will get involved with this sometimes just to get away from those textbooks a little bit. So what I really liked about this website is that my students used it the day after I taught it to them by themselves. And if that's not an indicator that they liked it, then I don't know what is. I'm going to just show you, all I do is click on games, all games here, and you'll see the different sections here. Most of this is math, obviously, but you do have a cool language arts section here where you will see parts of speech, verbs. You have a spelling section here, which is very elementary. And then typing and geography here, again, with a lot of websites, math has been developed first, and now they're adding extra things, but there's some great stuff in here if you want ESOL. But I'm going to pick some really easy math here and just show you how I use this. Okay, let me pick this one. What these are, let me let this play its music. What these are little races, and I find that it breeds a little bit of anxiety because you're in a race here, but I kind of like that because we have our students that are coming up against time tests, and I kind of need them to move it. I need them to get used to moving, so I'm just going to show you how this works. You can create a nickname if you like to. A lot of times I don't, and then you can just click play now. Now I'm going to show you the game before I explain how I specifically use it. So I don't know how much you can hear me over the sound, but you just click the answers. You can see it's a race. And as a math teacher, I feel a lot of anxiety in this when I am racing against what I assume are elementary students and then falling behind them. So I like that little bit of anxiety and rush. So there is a race and it is a finish line, and if you answer wrong, it tells me that I'm wrong. So I'm going to get out of this game, but they're all different little kind of races like this. And I'm just going to show you that the way that I used it with my students is I created a game, and it's very easy. Again, you just pick like maybe adding 2-digit numbers. They have multiple, there are multiplication times tables in this, which I know that if you're an adult ed math teacher, you know that multiplication facts are such a problem, and it seems like across the board everybody has issues with those. So this is a fun way to kind of force them to practice their multiplication times tables. But the way I do this is I create a game. And you can create a private game, which is what I would recommend, and create any password. It doesn't matter what. And what your students can then do is they can join the game, and there's a section there that says join game, and all they have to do then is type that password. I'm going to go back to that. They can type that password, and then you'll see that your students will be racing against each other, and you can then you'll see the game here, and they'll be able to join it. They can race against each other, and what I really liked about this is that we started trash talking, we started going crazy with this, and this was just a way for me to re-engage, especially if you've got those 16 to 19-year-olds that just get off task. And there was just a bunch of group, like 5 of us, and one student thought he was just going to sit back and not answer. So the rest of us just started going crazy and just trash talking. It was so funny, and it kind of forces everybody to engage when that competitive piece kicks in, and it was really fun. So I just want to say there's a quick brain break, and it's really funny, and it worked out so well I had to mention it. Okay, before we come to the end of our session, I do want to leave some time for questions if I can, if I have time to answer these. I want to talk about the best website that I've learned for reading teachers in forever. This is rewordify.com. I find this website to be such a gem. I cannot believe it's not more popular. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over to this Newsela article, and I'm just going to pull some text from this. You can pull any text that you want. So I'm going to pull this max level text here, and I'm just going to copy and paste it just to show you how Rewordify works. And this is how easy: copy and paste into Rewordify. Okay, and then you click Rewordify, and what happens is that Rewordify will then do what it says, rewordify the text. So this sentence said, a group of girls poses for the camera as Dallas Cowboys, blah, blah, blah. It changed it to a group of girls present / stands in a showy or fake way. So what it does is it replaces vocabulary words with things that are easier to read. And what I really like about this, let me give it another example. It was an unintentional knock. It changed to it was an accidental knock. And you'll see that it's got all the vocabulary words there. And what I really love about this for reading teachers is that if you already had an article that you wanted your students to read, you can scroll down, and they make this box so small and unassuming, but it's the most awesome thing. You can print vocab lists, quizzes, and more. And there are so many activities. So if I scroll back up to the top here, I can print a vocabulary list with definitions for this article. There you go. It auto-generates it, and I can print it. I can go back and I can print a word bank quiz. It auto-generates it, and now I can just print it. You'll see this big print page button at the top. Okay, you could also print it to a PDF to save it forever. Here's a word bank quiz with all of our words at the top. We can create a closed reading activity, which is something great for ESOL. If you want to do a dictation and you want them to listen to what you're reading, you can start reading, and then you can see you have to fill in the blanks here with the vocabulary words. Or give this to your ESOL students and let them fill in the blanks with the appropriate vocabulary word, and you see all these different vocabulary words at the top. So this is such an easy resource. You paste any text into this, and it's automatically going to create all of these different activities for you. And again, all you have to do, I'm going to go back to my original text here. All you have to do is paste something in this box and click this button, and then scroll down and you'll see the area where you can print those things. Okay. There's also a settings page here. So if you have a higher level class, you can rewordify less. This made 28 vocabulary words. I can change it down to 7 vocabulary words, or 6, or 2. I tend to think more vocabulary might be better than less, but you can change the settings there too. And for you language teachers, I find this to be so awesome, this parts of speech feature, because what it will do is it will take that text and it will color code it with all the different parts of speech, and you can see the different parts up here. And then if I were in an ESOL classroom, okay, let's say we're not studying every part of speech right now, we just want to talk about verbs. Here we go. Now we only have verbs highlighted, or we have verbs and nouns highlighted. And this is any text that you can paste into that box. So I cannot believe that this site is just not so much more popular, because I find it to be something that takes 10 seconds, copying and pasting, and then you have all these awesome printable activities. You can print this, you can project it up on the board. If you have a color copier, you do see there's a print feature here. And then there's also, for students, I'm just going to say that you see this little teal colored box right here, and then under this purple. If it says there are 7 hard words, learn 3 of them or all of them. If I click on that, it will take me into a section where it's now giving me a vocabulary quiz area for the vocabulary in this text. So if you had a student that was reading something independently and you wanted them to independently practice the vocabulary, here you go. You have this begin learning section. So this is such an awesome website. Again, I'm going to go back to the beginning. All you do is paste text and click rewordify, and then that's where you get those other options. Up here, you get this independent learning option in this purple bar. You have the parts of speech option, which I think is wonderful for ESOL or language teachers. And then if you scroll down, you have that amazing resource down here. I'm sorry that I'm scrolling so fast. You have this amazing resource where you can print these vocab lists, quizzes, and more. And it's so awesome. It's such a great tool because you can put any article in, which means if you find an article on Halloween and Halloween is coming up, you don't have to worry about creating your own vocabulary there. For example, if you're at ESOL, you've got it there. It's a tool that's already ready to go. Okay, so I know I spoke really fast. Again, it was really my pleasure to be speaking so quickly here today with you. I want to just try to answer some of your questions. I know we're running out of time. Now, Sharon, you might be able to chime in on this, and thank you for all your help today, by the way. I am willing to stay a little longer to answer questions, but that does bring me to the end. Again, if you have any questions about anything, I'll just throw my email back up here. You can feel free to email me, and that handout that has everything that I talked about on it is there. Sharon, I don't know if we need to cut this right at 4, but unless you have
Nope,
something.
we can stay on, we can definitely stay on longer. That's no problem.
Okay, great. So I'm going to just try to answer some of the questions that you've posted in the Q&A section. If you have a question now, I'm going to try to do that. And if you have something real specific, then maybe just email me. But for those of you that don't have any questions, thank you very much for joining me on this Friday afternoon. It was super awesome to be able to talk to you today, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I'll just say goodbye here for those of you that don't have questions. All right, so let me see if I can see some of these first questions. Okay, I'm just seeing a lot of answers here. Okay, can we get a hard copy of the handout? I can certainly email Christopher Silver, you asked that. If you can just email me, I'll email it right back to you, and then you can print it and do whatever you want with it.
And Rebecca, just a reminder that this is going to go out to everybody too in an email from our system. So
okay, perfect. So for those of you asking for the handout, you'll get it one way or another. Okay, access this session later. I believe that you were recording, Sharon.
yep, the entire time.
So that will be posted through the forum for you to be able to access. And if you have questions later, you can also email me. Okay. Does it translate to other languages? I'm not sure which you were asking about, but if you're asking about Google Voice, yes, it does translate to other languages because you know Google already has that awesome translate feature in it. So you can do that if you need to. But if you're asking me specifically because you want to be able to text students in other languages, then I would say that you might want to check out Remind, which is another app that you can use that will translate into other languages, which I find that a lot of ESOL teachers are liking a little bit better than Google Voice. What is the benefit of Evernote over Google Classroom? For Google Classroom, your students need a Gmail or Google account, and it's a little bit heavier duty on the student end for those of the students that need to, they need to create an account. And for me, that's just one extra step. For my computer users that really aren't, they're newbies, they really don't love computers, they're typically older students that don't use computers already, don't already use email on a regular basis. That's why I like Evernote, because it does not require that students create a login, because they're just going to use my login. And in all the years I've been using Evernote, I have never had trouble with students inappropriately interacting with my account. I just always remind them, this is my account. And then I'm the one that manages the account, so I find it to be a lot easier than Google Classroom. And also, it's very concise. You saw that I only had 2 or 3 notes in there, and those notes, that's all the students have to interact with. Whereas when we create something in like Google Classroom, a lot of times there's more stuff in there, and it can confuse those beginning users. Is Evernote better than Google Docs? I say, and the question is, as a type of teaching or homework platform. I like Evernote for a homework platform, not for a teaching classroom, because it's a teaching platform, because it's really not going to be, especially the free version is really not going to have enough in there for you to really post too much that might be more of like a teaching type software. It's really going to be more of a homework. Here's a worksheet. Here's a PDF. Here's a link to a YouTube video to watch, or anything like that. Any advice regarding confidentiality FERPA? I don't put anything that is going to be personal for myself or for my students in any of these resources that I'm talking to you about, except for maybe a student name into like Reid Theory or anything like that. If you really had some severe concerns about that and couldn't get it worked out in your district, and you didn't think it was okay for you to be posting a student name into one of these websites, then you could create a fake name or something like that for your students, probably, or a nickname or something pretty easy. But other than the Reid Theory, I don't think that there's anything that I showed you today that would require that you were actually posting students' stuff into any of these websites. And even in Reid Theory, you can have students create their own accounts, so you can put the accountability on them in terms of them sharing their own information with these websites. Okay, can students complete the worksheets online and then return them online, or do they print? I assume that's talking about Evernote. There is a way in Evernote that you can type out questions and then students could leave responses there, and Evernote does have collaborative capabilities. I do not recommend it for that in terms of what I've just talked about, where I give out my account. That would be something you would want to do if you had students create their own free accounts in Evernote. So what I have is I have my students looking at the worksheets on the computer screen and then doing it on paper. And I like that. I like that also because the worksheet is up here on the screen and then they have to handwrite down on their own paper. And that's the same experience that they're having when they're taking the GED test. And me as a math teacher, that's important to me because I have students, for example, that will routinely leave off a negative sign and end up getting something wrong or something like that because they've failed to copy what they have seen on a computer screen down onto their scrap paper to do the work. So I kind of like that Evernote forces them to do that also when I post worksheets that way. Okay, do I prefer IExcel over Khan Academy? I like Khan Academy, and I've used it both as a student and as a teacher. I find that Khan Academy has a vast amount of resources in it and from an adult education instructor perspective, I find that sometimes Khan has more than what my math students need to be successful on the TABE or the GED test, and I assume it would be the same with high school equivalency. IExcel I find is very straightforward, and in the Khan Academy, the great thing about Khan is that there's that feature where if a student doesn't know something, they can ask for a hint, which will then write out the hint, and if that doesn't help, then it links to the video. So I will say it kind of depends on what you want. I use IExcel way more specifically than I use Khan. IExcel is something where I say, okay, I've just taught graphing equations in slope-intercept form, and I want them to practice graphing equations in slope-intercept form. And that's the only thing I want them to practice because that's what I just taught them. I use Khan for a more general overview, and when my students are doing independent work and I want them to be independently working through a curriculum, that's when I use Khan. So it really depends on what I'm doing at the time. Was the resource link on the COABE website? If it wasn't already there, it will be there soon. So don't worry about getting these resources. But as long as you have my email, you're good to go because I can get you anything in the future if you want it. IExcel, I tried using it, but it asked me to subscribe. Yeah, it's a paid website, but I use it for free. Just skip over the subscribe part. Just search for what you're looking for, and then you'll see that you can do 9 practice questions for free. And once again, once those 9 questions run out, then you can just pull everywhere in the text box, type your answer before you hit send. There are other things that can link them in a little bit better way. I find that if I'm going to project something up on the board in the way that I would with Poll Everywhere, I would not want to do that and throw up everybody's wrong answers because I find that might make them a little trepidatious to answer. What grade level, Lexile level does Reid Theory include? I find that it goes from a first grade level up to an advanced level, so like maybe 1 through 12. I do find that you will get way down into those literacy levels for your very low level readers. You will still see first and second grade level stuff on there, and you will certainly see that higher level stuff on there also. However, I will say that for the higher level like GED advanced reading, I don't find that Reid Theory is hard enough in that I don't find that it mimics the ambivalence and the inferences that you need to make for the GED style or the high school equivalency style. So for your higher level, it might not be as good. I would probably use it like TABE levels 0 through maybe 8 is probably where I would use it more. I don't find that the level of questionings in Reid Theory is hard enough to mimic the GED style question, so I wouldn't be using it for my super advanced readers. Do the students use academics individually on a computer, or does the class do it together on the smartboard? I would do it individually, and that's how we did it when I created a game, because then every student is accountable for submitting their own answers. But you certainly can do it together on a smartboard, because you can project it up and tell them to yell out the answers while you are typing them in. Or you could have a student type it in for you. So it could be done in either way, but I use them individually because I find that that's the way that program is designed. Do any of these record time on tasks? You know, I can't recall that Reid Theory does that. I don't think it does. IExcel does record time. If you pay for it, you will be able to see that as a teacher. The way that I use IExcel is free, so I don't have that feature once the student closes their browser. You can see the amount of time that they are spending on it while they are still answering the questions. But since IExcel recently cut down to only 9 questions, I'm not sure how relevant that time on task is going to be to you in any of the things I talked about today. Lots of questions for the handout that will certainly be provided. Is Jing like snipping tool? Yes, it is. I love Jing, and I put it on there and didn't really show it too much because I was running out of time. But Jing is just like snipping tool, except for you can also record videos through Jing. You can record free 5-minute videos, which are uploaded to screencast.com, and you can share them out. So I really love it. Jing also creates a history, and then you can also, for example, highlight or point arrows or draw boxes around things on the snips that you make, and I find it a little bit easier to use than snipping tool for that reason. So you might want to check it out. If you are frequently screen capturing, I find that Jing is really awesome. I will just make the small note that for some reason, a Jing snip will not post into Smart Notebook. If you're using a smart board and you're using Smart Notebook all the time, then, you know, I'm sorry. I don't know why Jing won't post into Smart Notebook. Lots of questions for the handout, no problem there. Does Poll Everywhere incur data charges on student phones? It could if they do not have unlimited text messaging, which I don't think that you're going to encounter any students that don't anymore. Unlimited text is very, very typical these days, even for some of those cheaper, lesser known companies out there. It is a text charge, not a data charge. So it's not an internet charge, it's a text message charge. So if and only if they went over their text messaging limit, would there be a charge? And I doubt that you have any students in that situation, but just to know, it's not data, it's text. Okay. What level specifically, how low does reidtheory.org go? Again, that's first grade level. So I think that you, even for a literacy level student, you're going to be pretty okay with Reid Theory. The only thing that I will point out is that if you really have, like, for example, a super low level ESOL student or a completely illiterate student, it may not address, for example, the alphabet or the beginning sounds or anything like that. But you're going to get down to first grade level reading, and you'll see that some of those passages will turn into 3- and 4-sentence long articles. And so you're not gonna run out of the level will get that low, but not lower than that. Do we receive a certificate? Okay, certificate of attendance. I'm gonna leave that to you, Sharon. Can I talk about kudasoftware.com? I did talk about that. What I love about Kuda Software is that you have just that free worksheets section right at the top of that top page. Kuda Software can do a lot more than that if you pay for it, but that free worksheets section is where I live, and you'll find a lot of math teachers in that section also. Are there any copyright issues with copying and pasting under Rewordify? I wouldn't be concerned about that unless you are going to then rewordify something and post it into your own web form and try to make money off of that, or post it into any web form for that matter. What I would do is I would use it just in the same way I'm using a free article that I found online, and I'm posting it into a free website, and then I'm distributing it to my students. I don't think you're going to find copyright issues there, because the articles that I would paste into there would be things that were already available to print for free. So I guess it depends on if you were retyping something out of one of your textbooks, that there could be a copyright issue there because it says do not reproduce this. But if you're finding free things online that were already able to be printed, you shouldn't find a copyright issue there. And again, I just wouldn't post anything onto a web forum where somebody could say, well, now you're using this and acting as though it's your own work, and it's not, you know, things like that. Okay, question about worksheets online is about Evernote. I'm sorry, Deborah, I think I answered your question. That I use Evernote worksheets for more of a homework style than a teaching style. Okay. Widgio, I have used it. I'm sorry that I don't remember what it is. The question is, have I used Widgio, and do I know of an alternative? I cannot remember what that is. I think I saw it a long time ago. So this is Leanne Harris. If you email me and ask me the same question, I will research this and I will try to find an answer for you. And I do love to do research projects like that. So if you do email me, I will definitely do it. Do I use Kahoot? Yes, I love it. And I love to use Kahoot without creating Kahoots. I just search Kahoots, and as a math person or a language person, I don't think that you'll ever find something that hasn't already been created by another teacher, and I do love that. I present it sometimes, but I just didn't do it today. But I love Kahoot. If you love Kahoot, try Plickers if you feel like it. Plickers. That's another cool one that's kind of in that arena. Can we get more webinars? I like that question. I'm going to leave that up to our sponsor and our creators here. Have I used Edmodo, similar to Google Classroom, but I feel is more user-friendly? Would you still recommend Evernote due to no need for a student to create a login? I've used Edmodo and I've used Moodle, and I find that from a teacher perspective, those take a lot more time to create. They take a lot more time to manage, and that is why I do not present about those things. Some of them are also require paid prescriptions. And things like Google Classroom is something that I'm interested in, but I try to do, I want a good return on investment when it comes to my technology use. I don't want to put hours into something that my students are going to interact with for 15 minutes. So I tend to look for tech resources that do what technology should do, in my opinion, which is to make my job easier and faster. I don't look for things that require hours and hours and hours of investment on my time, just because even though I love computers, I don't have hours and hours and hours of planning time. And also, I don't find that when I teach other teachers about those things that they even care, because they don't have hours and hours and hours of time. So I'm not going to trash talk Edmodo or Moodle or any of those other cool things that are out there right now. That's just not my, I just don't present about those things because I look for super, super fast things. Okay, and I think that I have explained almost every question. I have another question about Jing, so I'm going to take about 20 seconds to explain that. I'm almost at the end of these questions list, so let me just look. Where do you find the time to do all of this prep? I hope that Anonymous, who asked that question, is still here listening. I don't prep when I use these websites. These websites can be used in minutes. I have compiled these list of these websites over the course of years. And so I hope that I have shown you something that you think you can use in the next 5 minutes in your classroom. I do not prep using these websites. I just want to make that clear. These are super duper fast and easy things to use immediately in your classroom. So if you're still here, Anonymous, I really hope that I got that across with some of these today. Okay, when dealing with, I think this is probably Kurdish adult students with no English, what can you recommend as far as me going to a website and projecting it on the screen? There is Spanish, Arabic, and other languages as well. I teach the basic level. I think that you're asking specifically about that particular language. Google Translate does pretty good, but I will tell you this as an ESOL coordinator. I find that when we are constantly translating specifically into Spanish, I work with a 99% Hispanic population as an ESOL coordinator, that the Spanish speakers do not learn as fast as other speakers because everywhere they go, things are translated. So I'm not sure that I can directly answer your question other than to say that Google Translate is pretty good, and you can find so many different languages on Google Translate that should be enough to help you. And they can also download Google Translate as an app onto their phone, and you can speak or type directly into their app and it will translate into whatever language, which I think you'd be hard pressed to find a language that wasn't on there on Google Translate. But I will just say that I think the data recommends not doing too much translating and trying to focus on immersion, but that's you doing your own case-by-case thing. Okay, do you integrate some or all the tools on one web page where your students can easily log in to use them? Can you show us what that tool looks like? I pick and choose things. Some things I use only with students individually, and some things I use as a whole class. So if you look at the list of, if you look at the handout, it kind of describes what each tool is kind of used for. And that may give you an idea of what is individual and what is as group. And I would just say, in terms of sharing out web resources, if I'm not there sitting next to the student in a computer lab telling them exactly what to click on to show them something individually, excuse me, then I would probably share through the Evernote platform, because it's so much easier just to post a link in there than it is to try to get the student to go to the website. Or I will print out step-by-step directions for them to go to the website. Okay, let me quickly, in this last minute, show you Jing, which I'm sorry that I skipped over that, but I was really running out of time. All right, you see this little sunshine here? This is my last thing. This is Jing, and I really love Jing. And I'm gonna open up this PDF just to show you. Anything that you can project on your screen can be used with Jing. Jing is a screen capture tool. So I love this for math, because if I'm making a quiz that I'm just going to use in class, I'll just capture something like this and I can copy it. And I just want to make mention that you can now draw arrows. Okay, so I use this a lot as a coordinator in training, where I will point and say, click here, now click here. I can put in text. I can make little text bubbles around a document. So again, when I'm creating like step-by-step manuals for purposes of training other teachers or even training students on where they need to click on certain websites, I'll use this. You can draw boxes and stuff like that. But then you can just copy this and you can paste it into anything. So I really like this as a math teacher, because even though I love technology, I hate to type out things like equations and fractions, because it just takes too much time and I just don't have that kind of time. So I use Jing primarily for screen capture, and then I can just paste that into like a Microsoft Word document, and then I can resize it and things like that. So that's what I use Jing for. But I can also capture a video. You can see you only have 3 choices: capture, history, or settings. The history will show all the things that you've captured in the past. So if you've already captured this math problem before and you want to repost it, then great. Or if you forgot to paste something somewhere, you can go back in and get it and it'll save your history. But you can also capture a video. So if I want to just create a quick video here, I can capture video. It will record my voice and I can say, hey, you know, I know that you've been having trouble using this website. Okay, I just need you to click here on file, and then I need you to click like on the home tab, and then you can change the size of your font or whatever, you know, whatever you want to say, and then you can end that video. And again, you get 5 minutes for free. You can play your video to see how you sound. I always hate when I hear my own voice, but then you can share that via screencast.com. So basically you create a free account and they post those videos online for you. And then you're able to email them out to anybody. So I really like Jing for that. So if you are somebody that very frequently is screen capturing, or you're using Snippet or Snagit or any of that a lot, I would recommend checking out Jing, because I really like that. Alrighty, so I think that is bringing me to the end of the questions, and I think that we're pretty much good to go here. And I just want to say a final thank you, and I'm really happy for those of you that participated today. And it was my pleasure to be here.
Rebecca, thank you so much. We greatly appreciate your time. I also want to take a minute to see if Robert has anything he'd like to say before we close this up.
I thought that was fantastic. I tell you, that was super well done. And to everyone out there, thanks so much. And for everyone looking for technology integration, obviously, I'm a huge fan of BurlingtonEnglish.com as well as Burlington English. So I'll see you on our website. Check out, there's a nice little video with this old guy that they did years ago with me, walking through the parts of Burlington, and a little tab called YBE. I think you'll find it incredibly great use of your time. So thank you to Sharon, Coabe, and Rebecca. Well done.
Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you
very much.
We appreciate it. Okay, thank you, everybody. This will be coming out again, sending this out tomorrow. We'll also be posting this on our website. And yes, everybody will get certificates of attendance tomorrow as well. Thank you, everybody, and take care. Bye now.